Good morning. I'm just waiting here. I'm at the Tellico Dam. Gonna walk across, see if we get a few people that join us. But if it's just you and me, we'll talk for a while. If you have to leave, that's fine. Hey there. I'm just gonna try a live here. I've done this a couple times, but uh, what I'm gonna do is I'm at the TVA Tellico. I'm sorry, Tellico Dam in Lenore City, Tennessee. We have a bridge there and one over here that's about a $70 million bridge project. And there's a lot of guardrail, just different stuff to talk about. It's very difficult to try to relay a conversation in a 60-second short. So I had some people say, hey, can you teach us a little more about guardrail or talk about your advocacy more? Or so we'll try it. So anyways, I'm gonna flip this around. We have about 15 people that have joined us. Let's go ahead. If you have a question, can you hear me okay? Anyone? Nobody's complaining, so I guess that's okay. I'm gonna flip you around. Let's go ahead and walk. So we'll just look at the structures as we go. We'll talk a little bit about history. So where I'm at is at the Tellico Dam, and this was the last major dam built in the United States. You may have heard of the snail darter. It was a reportedly endangered little tiny fish that was leading to them not being able to close the dam. So this is the last major dam built in the United States. They did finally close it. There's a lot of recreation on this lake. Probably, if you like smallmouth bass fishing, one of the best smallmouth bass fishing lakes in the United States. Right here, this goes to, this is State Route 444, and it heads towards a little village called Tellico Village, which is a retirement community here in Tennessee, very affluent. Just further down here is Bustle Island. One of the things that a lot of people don't realize is Tennessee got its name through Tanasi, which was an Indian tribe. But Hernando de Soto actually, right where we're standing, passed through, just down here, he kidnapped the local chief and secured his safe passage across Tennessee. So anyways, let's go ahead and get started here. You got a little bit of a feel where I'm at. First thing we have is just a breakaway sign structure. These used to kill a lot of people, but you can see there's up here those bolts and that there. That will essentially, when you hit this sign, it's just going to flip right over your vehicle rather than come into the vehicle. We have a sign here that's missing. Again, another breakaway structure. And then as a pedestrian right now, we have a sidewalk that goes to nowhere. We don't really prioritize pedestrian safety too much. I'm going to try to make my way across here, so I'm going to talk with you, but I'm going to pay attention to what's going on because I really don't want to end up getting splatted live on YouTube. And just right here, get to the island. We have TVA police here. So I made it across to the island. One of the things, I walk this route a lot. So this is a one-way ramp. I still always look this way. And a couple weeks ago, not on this ramp, but that ramp up there, I had somebody come on the wrong way and nearly hit me. So I still check both ways because I've almost been hit so many times up here. So the first piece of guardrail here is an end anchor, and you can see that cable there. You can see the cable bracket. Again, look at just beautiful. It's you can't miss the beauty while you're here. So this end anchor is vital. The end anchor provides redirective capacity. As you get to the beginning or the end of the rails, they become, when you pocket, if there's no anchor, when I talk about pocketing, you think of this as a rigid barrier, almost like a fluid, you're going to hit and push in, and you want to get no more than about 4 feet of lateral deflection. Good morning, Washington State. I'll tell you a story about Washington State here in a minute, but anyways, you want to get about 4 feet of lateral deflection. But as you get towards the end, if there's not an anchor, you're going to get a whole lot of lateral deflection, and the rail will rupture, and you'll end up out here. Now, this isn't going to be bad because you got a nice, beautiful clear zone. But you know, this was a tough one. I was up in Pinch, West Virginia, and we had an unanchored system, and a little girl, Arabella Cummings, she was a passenger in that vehicle, and the rail ruptured. They went over a hill, and she was killed. But anyways, that's why these end anchors are so vital. You see this is supposed to be down under here to protect the wood. Take a look at that, guys. I walked this and I have not seen that. You see it's fractured? You see that? Let me flip this around. That right there, that fracture. This summer I had a crash that I documented, one of the worst ones I've ever documented as far as the number of fatalities. I'm gonna move away from that. So it was out near LA. 4 Marines from Camp Pendleton hit a guardrail, and the end was fractured like that for almost 6 or 7 years. The rail ruptured. They hit a bridge post, and all 4 of them were incinerated. It's just stunning to have 4 active duty Marines killed, not in the line of duty, not in a foreign battlefield, but hitting a guardrail, but having the injuries and outcomes be similar to what you'd get if you were to hit an IED in Afghanistan or Iraq. Let me flip this back around because that's a big deal. That post is totally fractured and needs to be replaced, and it's virtually identical to that in the California crash. So this has no anchorage. It's just stunning. I mean, this is why physical inspections are so vital. And I walk by this going fairly often, but you can see there, that fracture right there is enough to lead to a rail rupture right there. Again, I'm not too concerned because we don't have a big hazard here, but I'm going to go ahead and get that reported and get it fixed because just best practices. Let's go ahead and walk a little bit. We have newer rail here. This is the splices between the posts, so that's a good sign that we have MGS rail. Hey, Butler, Indiana. So this is MGS rail, meaning Midwest Guardrail Standard. I prefer to call it Modern Guardrail Standard, but the folks at the University of Nebraska came up with this, and it's typically how you're going to identify it. It has the splices in between the posts. The standard is a 12-inch blockout, but in Tennessee we use an 8-inch blockout because we often just don't have the real estate to get that other 4 inches. It would either push it closer to the road or potentially lead to a bigger hazard. So anyways, we have our block out there, and what that does is it offsets the rail from the post. And what we're trying to do is prevent, as the vehicle comes in, having the wheel snag this right here. And I'm filming, I don't know, I'm filming on a Samsung S23. I'm sorry, the video quality, I don't know why it's poor. But the 12-inch blockout's going to be a lot safer here. Not a lot safer, incrementally safer. Sorry, but it is safer. And on any one crash or any one post, we're not going to see. I don't think I could ever document a crash where I said the difference between a 12-inch blockout and an 8-inch blockout made the difference. The issue is when we scale that. So here we have hundreds of blockouts, and then we have an entire state where we could have millions of them. Over time, we're going to get a statistically significant difference in outcomes. So the use of a 12-inch block out where you have the real estate to use them, I really like them. So let's keep walking. Again, this is a Mondo block. That's a proprietary brand. Just anyways, let's walk. The other thing is, it's for MGS 31-inch height, mid-rail splice, and then 8-inch blockouts. One of the reasons that we want to see MGS is because when a vehicle hits here on the face, it will hold the vehicle closer to the rail for some reason. I don't know. I don't understand the engineering or science behind it, but it just does it. So I saw somebody pop on here from Washington State, and I was going to tell you, I was able to go to the AASHTO mid-year DC briefing, and there were a lot of, US senators, congressmen, and top transportation officials. I have a video I'm going to post. It's with the Washington State Transportation Secretary, the top transportation guy in the state. And what it is I do a lot of advocacy work related to Guardrail, of course. You see that. But I have 6 children that are adopted, 3 from Ukraine, 2 out of the opioid epidemic, and then Nicholas, who you've seen on a few of my videos. We adopted him as an infant. That was a shocker. His grandparents, one side of them, are 6 years younger than me. But anyways, so I'm a big advocate for orphan advocacy. Not so much adoption. I think every child is entitled to a family, but I'd love to see them. I'd love to see them be reunited with their family. But anyways, that's not always possible in our situation. We had 6 children that needed families. So one thing that Washington State DOT is doing is they have a program where they're working with either juvenile offenders or kids that are about to age out. And what you need to know about kids that age out of foster care, according to MIT Sloan School of Management, about 2/3 of them will end up in the prison system before the age of 25. So what Washington State DOT is doing is they have a program where they're actually taking these kids, teaching them a skill, and then working with the iron workers and getting them a job, getting them first and last months, and really saving the taxpayers a ton of money. So I have an interview with Washington State DOT. A lot of times my stories, they're like, why don't you ever tell any good stories about us? And I'm like, you won't talk on camera. So I got the Washington State Transportation Secretary to talk on camera with me about this program. Let's flip you around and keep talking. So walking down the path here, one of the things I've been talking a lot about lately is these fences, and you can see the wire here along the top. You can see this is for support. We can't take out every post or they won't stand up. Like the stream, please. More like. Where I live is a very rural area. We don't even have guardrails at curves on the roads, not even by the curve on the river. That's a pretty big problem in our rural communities. About 20% of America lives in a rural community, but about half of our deaths occur in rural communities. But let's talk again about this upper post here. You can see I was a good kid. I'm just lying. But I've jumped over these fences more than once, and you really want that post up there if you're wanting to jump over there. But let's flip this over again. When you are running parallel to the road, it's vital that you not have that pipe that runs through this here, because it will it will impale a vehicle over time. It's just math. And so this wire, that thing is, it's tensioned, but it's not going to get you that dangerous potential impalement. I have a guy that he was decapitated for all practical purposes, and I don't know how he survived. I have no clue how he survived, but he did. But it was an installation error in New Jersey, and this wire right there would never even have made the video. They wouldn't have a clue that that was the danger, except for they hit that one area of the pipe. So always along the roadway, when you have a chain link fence, you want to have the wire and not the pipe. Well, let's keep going. We've got a bit of a washout here on the bike path. Wrong way. Oh gosh, we've been catching. One of the things, I have a friend, Alex, who has safety vid. I look him up on YouTube here. Alex has found a way to record all state DOT, well, not all state DOT cameras, but a number of state DOT cameras, and integrates with the 511 system, and then claws back the video before the crash. So that's how I'm getting these live crashes and being able to share them on my other channel, with the main goal of creating awareness of how these things actually perform in a real world crash. But one of the things that's been shocking is some of the stuff that we're capturing. Flip this around. We're capturing live crashes, and lately I've had 911 calling me here. People will do some crazy things in front of cameras. We've caught multiple homicides, but the wrong way crashes are terrifying, and you're just watching it and you're like almost wanting to scream at the video saying, "Turn, stop, stop." And these are scary because they're almost always fatal when there's the impact. And what I would say is, if you are driving, especially in a city at night, especially after midnight, do not drive in the left lane. Drunk drivers, typically going the wrong way, will drive in that left lane thinking they're on the right side of the road, going a little extra slow. They will drive head on into you, and I cannot tell you how many fatal crashes we have captured on camera. But anyways, if you want to go over to, it's at Traffic Cam Safety Vid is the YouTube channel. It's amazing what he's been able to do. But let's flip this back around. Thanks for everything. Thank you for the comment. Surprised on the Washington State story. Thanks for the good story. Yeah, I was really excited to hear that, because it's just something that's near and dear to my heart. But let's flip you around and let's keep walking. So I showed you some Mondo blocks. These are a block, it has the same effective function, but they're called King blocks. I think Trinity Industries, well, now Veltier, makes those. But typically a block is, at least a polymer block is going to be a polymer block. It's not, I don't know that there's a huge significance in performance, as much as sometimes I've seen these tabs here will break off, leads to rotating. So, you know, from a long-term maintenance standpoint, I'll just be candid, I think the Mondo block is a little bit better. And I've seen these ones break down a little bit from the heat and sun. If anyone has a question, feel free to ask it. I'm just walking on US321. This area down here is an undeveloped recreation area by the Tennessee Valley Authority. You can't hunt. You can walk to the river and fish. There's a lot of wildlife. I've run into bobcats, bald eagles, a ton of deer, lots of turkeys, but just really beautiful area here. Let's see here. We have a do not enter sign. This signpost is, you don't want to see your signs typically within 4 feet of that rail because of the lateral deflection issue. But let's keep walking. So up through here, I want to talk about post and beam guardrail and motorcycles. About 1,000 people annually die hitting guardrails in the United States, and it's not typically the W-beam that's going to kill them, although if you hit that, it's going to be really bad news. It's the post. And so up through here, we have a pretty wicked S-curve, and been two really serious motorcycle crashes here. One was a fatality. One was I don't know how it was not a fatality. It was a pretty brutal crash. I was up here doing some investigation. I mean, I had to go buy multiple liters of hydrogen peroxide just because I didn't want the family to show up and see what was still on the roadside. It was that bad. But it's the interaction between that body and these posts that causes most of these crashes, and they're really, really horrific. And both of those crashes took place just up near that curve. I pointed out, you'll see a difference in the change of blockouts. But we know this is a huge problem, and there's like just this attitude that it's not worth saving motorcycles' lives, or they had it coming. And a lot of times these motorcyclists, they're driving too fast for conditions. They've done something that helps cause the crash. But that doesn't mean we need to cut them in half. But anyways, one of the things I've been pushing, I hope it's going to be included in the new thing, new MASH testing standards that come out possibly in 2025, is guardrail crash testing that involves a motorcycle, or preferably for me, a cadaver or a pig, so we can actually begin studying what post and beam guardrail does to the human body when it's in a slide or a crash. If you don't, they're going to be ugly tests. It's just, there's no way around it. But if you don't study a problem, you'll never fix it. So that fatality was right up here. You see the difference. You have the king blocks, and then you switch to Mondos. And that crash took place right here in this curve. And just, they were dead right there. The thing is, across the way, you see the concrete barrier. I saw another. I was one of the first people on that scene. The motorcyclist hit the concrete barrier. He was knocked silly, but he lived. And it really has to do with the interaction. The narrow fixed objects on the roadside are really, really dangerous. So the guy over there wished he was dead, but he lived to fight another day. The guy here, didn't have a chance because of the interaction with the body with the post. Anyways, so I'm a big fan of concrete barrier. It is resilient. It's ready to go. You can see this one's been hit multiple times. It's still ready to go. It protects a much wider fleet of vehicles. This here only protects vehicles that are about 1,800 pounds to 5,000 pounds. We've seen recently the Tesla crash testing videos, but you know, we have a FedEx truck, box truck. Actually, it's not FedEx. I thought it was, but that vehicle is going to go right through this road. That vehicle might get redirected. That dually is probably going through the rail. The Ram is going through the rail. That sedan will get redirected. That vehicle hauling the trailer is unlikely to be redirected. That one's unlikely to be redirected. Cadillac will probably be okay. That just gives you an idea that this rail right here is very limited in who it's going to protect. That rail over there is good to go. It gets hit, and a few minutes later it gets hit again. and it's ready to go. You don't have to put somebody in harm's way to fix it. It's very expensive, but it protects all of those vehicles we were just talking about would be safely redirected by the concrete barrier. And one of the things that's amazing is this is test level 3. That's probably test level 5. The University of Nebraska has recently done some research on concrete barrier. Test level 6 is like the highest level, and they were actually, if you remember, the really thin basketball player that was 7'6", Manute Bol. He played with Muggsy Bogues on the Washington, now Wizards, but I think they were the Bullets at the time. So the tallest player versus one of the smallest players. And the University of Nebraska recently took test level 6 barrier that used to be 7'6", like Manute Bol, and were able to make engineering changes and shrink it down to 5'2", an inch shorter than Muggsy Bogues. So the ability to implement a solution that protects a much wider fleet of vehicles when you cut, from 7'6" to 5'2", that much concrete, you're able to implement this on a much greater scale. So that's some of the really great research that's coming out. And I think that concrete, honestly, is going to be probably the future, because we don't have the ability to redirect. We don't have the ability to redirect EVs and these larger pickups with post and beam guardrail. Post and beam guardrail, the posts are a killer for motorcyclists. We're going to make any progress on that, we're going to have to do something about the post and beam issue. And we have the underlying problem that when this guardrail is damaged, it's damaged. And it needs to be fixed. And while it's down, it's down. We don't have that issue with the concrete across the way. Wouldn't strong posts and Thri-Beam work for EVs? Yeah, but it's a good chance it's going to kill smaller sedans. There's going to be a trade-off. And post and beam, strong post and Thri-Beam would, I believe, create more of a boomerang effect and throw those smaller vehicles back into traffic right in front of that truck, and you'll be dead right there from the secondary collision. And again, you have the maintenance issue with Thri-Beam, but I think it's one of the solutions that we're going to have to look at. One of the things I'm really pushing, I don't have a clue as to how much money is needed. So I was talking with staff from Senator Carper's office, and I'm like, we need money for research. And oh, Erica, jump in front of the cars. Okay. Anyways, and so I'm just like, I think we just need to earmark $100 million. Like, where'd you come up with that? We have to start somewhere. But if we don't need to start implementing I'm not going to post that, Erica. Get up, girl. Anyways, if we just start implementing possible solutions to the bigger mass problem, we're going to implement the wrong solutions. So anyways, we're at a location now. We've got a approach terminal. It's a Trinity Noveltier soft stop. It has proprietary post. Proprietary parts pretty much just, well, they said 25 foot rail 1. So this rail 1 is proprietary, and so is post number 2. You can see the little holes down there that weakens the post, and you should have seen the comment that didn't get approved, folks. But anyways, it weakens the post and allows it to get knocked over. We have the impact head. We have another weakened small post, and then we have an end anchor. So I like the system overall. There's some concerns I have. during crash testing, especially on test 34, there was a weld there, and I don't see the disclosure. Could one make the wall higher and do 2 of the metal? That's a possibility that we could do that. Hey, thank you for that Euro donation. That's awesome. That's great. That's the crazy thing is, I'm in rural East Tennessee. I got a call from somebody recently. I get distracted, but we'll talk about this thing. The support from around the nation, around the world, I mean, is unreal. And do you know what the original intent of the Texas turndown was? I don't understand why the designers didn't realize the obvious design. We'll deal with that in a minute, but I got a call recently from Biden, but anyways, it was Aiden. He's like, you'd say it Aiden in America, but he was in Ireland, or Northern Ireland, I forget. But it's just amazing to me that the people that tune in, and so those super thanks are super, well, they're useful because it allows me to get out on the road, make some of the visits that I do, but also they're just an encouragement when somebody makes a donation in euros or some foreign currency, that somebody halfway around the world saw the value in my work. It's a huge encouragement. But anyways, so let's deal with this question about the Texas turndown. They were trying to anchor the systems because what was happening is the blunt ends were spearing into vehicles. Wow. Canadian $10. Wow, that is good. You guys are stunning me. It's awesome. Thank you. The blunt end anchors were spearing people and killing them. And so we got this simple solution. We're going to do a Texas turndown. And it was an improvement. We stopped spearing them, but we started flipping them over. And the Texas turndown is a killing machine. And if you don't know what this is, it's essentially a ramp at the beginning of the guardrail, but it fixes the guardrail to the ground. We stopped spearing people, but some research has shown that one, it's about 300% more likely to kill you in a crash, but two, I saw one study that suggested 1 in every 6 people that hits a Texas turndown, from a PDO, property damage only type crash, to a fatal injury crash, every 6 times it's impacted, it results in a fatality, which that's just stunning. I mean, it's hard to be that effective at anything, much less when you're talking about fatalities. And I've seen so many fatalities involving the Texas turndown. There's been guidance since the early 70s noting it's much more dangerous. Guidance from the feds saying, hey, get rid of these. I have one video of a fellow up in Ohio from the Ohio field office, and he is saying quite simply the Texas turndown is not crash worthy. They're primarily in rural communities, although I've recently captured a crash live in Arkansas, but it's dozens and dozens of people that are killed annually hitting Texas turndowns. And often, I was up in northeast Pennsylvania, the runs of guardrail are so short that they provide effectively no redirective capacity. And so they're like, well, do we need a guardrail there? Yes. But you have a flipping machine, so you'd be better off removing the guardrail, and at least just it's buyer beware. And if you die, at least you have a fighting chance. When you throw the Texas turndown in there, it's like you're ensuring death. Hello. Hey, how's it going? The quality's a little bit better. Naruto, yes, thank you so much. What's up? How are you doing? Well, do what Saudi does and go full cement. That's not a bad option. Fix it then. I can't fix it. From the island of Samoa, my daughter is dating a young man. I think he'll probably be my future son-in-law. He's a quarter Samoan. So, anyways, thank you from Samoa. This message is held for review. Okay, so yeah, thank you. Random uploader, thank you from Kanakis Danian Pesos. Hey. And you have Tim Hortons. So, if you save one life, it's all worth it. Yeah, that's another one. If you save one life, you save the world. It's a Jewish proverb that you'll see at the Holocaust Memorial Museum. I live near a guardrail near a major freeway that's been crashed and not repaired in over 2 years. Algeria, North Africa. Hey there. So my sister was she was in the Peace Corps, but then she took an NGO job in Algeria, and I saw a lot of victims of mines. And that's one of the things, like, I've likened this to is, okay, so we have a damaged guardrail, and we have folks that are saying, hey, just don't hit them. Well, like, my sister was in Algeria, and as long as you don't hit a damaged guardrail, it's safe. As long as you don't step on a landmine in Algeria, it's safe. It's safe. And till you step on it, and then the injuries are very similar to what you'd get from a guardrail and mine in Algeria. So that's one of Jenny's experience over there in Algeria is you could have a mine that was in the ground for decades, and then somebody steps on it, and it's deadly. It's the same thing with a guardrail. I have the one next to the near the White House. It's been there for decades, and it's not been hit. So I guess it's safe in that sense. I mean, based on the number of people that have passed it by. But the first time it's stepped on or hit, it's going to be done. Let's go back down through these. My next door neighbor's daughter was speared by a signpost sitting in the front middle seat when driving with her friends in the 90s. What you do is important. We have a friend, yesterday was the 26th anniversary of Sean's death in a very similar crash. I'm sorry for that. If you saw some of the California guardrails in the mountains, you would not be happy. I've seen some of them. Greetings from France. Bonjour. One of the things, when I was in Ukraine adopting my sons, what I've learned is if you're traveling in a foreign country, my Russian is not that great. A lot of it's learned from orphans, so I accidentally swear at you a little bit. So if you speak a little bit of French and you're in there's a good chance the person you're talking to, if they know French, you can communicate in that third language when neither one of you could converse in English or say Russian. It's one thing I learned there. Who's doing the emojis with me? Well, thank you. Don't forget to brush your teeth. Thank you. Tell me what to do and I'll do it with you. Hey, so I'm a guardrail civil engineering student from Ohio, and I'm planning on doing my final honors presentation to ODOT about providing additional funding for improving our guardrail infrastructure. Hey, feel free to reach out to me. Find my email, sjiimers@yahoo, and we'll talk and see what I can do to help you out. Drop ship the Mexicans back. Come on, I've seen crews, regardless of their ethnicity, screw stuff up. So, anyways, let's flip this back around. Let's talk about the soft stuff. So this is a MASH tested system, and one of the big things, and we've made some progress, is you never want to bolt this through rail number through rail 1 at post number 2. One of the confusing things is, why is this post 2? Why is this not post 1? This is post 0. That's post 1. That's post 2. That's post 3. But in all actuality, this is post 0. Or why isn't it? So 1, 2, 3, 4. But it's 0, 1, 2, 3. But that's an anchor post that's a half post, and this is actually your first tall post, but it's not attached to the rail. So some people will say, this is post 1. So standardizing this would be a great process. But so anyway, so I made a video, it got about 16 million views. I've seen a number of fatal crashes where it was, I'm trying to stay back here because I want to be shielded a little bit and be able to jump over the second rail if somebody goes a little bit crazy. So anyways, you don't want to see that there. So Trinity has, Veltier, sorry, I don't want to get that wrong. Veltier has put a foil sticker over that so it limits the possibility of passing the bolt through there. And so that's a big step. One of the other things that we really need to do, because this is a proprietary post right here that's weakened down at the bottom, we need to label that post number 2. And so that's kind of personal to me because the first and third post in Hannah's crash, they were switched. So she didn't have a chance really to start with, but even right out of the chute, no pun intended, they stacked the odds against her. And so by labeling this post 2, we clearly know it's post number 2. We don't install it right there, right there. They look the same other than those little things down here. I'm sorry, I don't understand English well. I think you talked about your sister in Algeria. Sorry, I wish I understood what you said. I'm sorry. No need to apologize. All right, so anyways, we have this impact head. We have the tethering before the rail. So one of my big things is I'm trying to get a hold of the crash testing, put them on another channel that's exclusively devoted to crash testing. But when I got this crash testing, I was able to observe that on test 34, this right here was welded. So I'm not sure if it was just butt welded or if it was there was a sleeve that kind of reinforced it. My concern is that they were hitting right here at the weld. That was what's called the CIP, critical impact point, and we don't know what that unit was like in crash testing because the folks that wrote the crash test report, hello from Seattle, we monitor your cameras out in Seattle, and goodness, there's some interesting stuff that happens in front of DOT webcams in Seattle. A lot of it gets referred over to the police. Anyways, so we don't know what happened in test 34. We know that this one here does not have that weld, but the folks that own the patents and get the royalties were the same folks doing the crash testing. We can't have that. That's what my federal law was. It was part of the IIJA. It was in the Trump infrastructure bill. Then COVID happened and we were able to get it into the Biden bill. But so whether you like the overall IIJA, that's okay, or not okay, I'm not here to argue that, but at least I feel like my 4 paragraphs made that law better all the way around, regardless of how you feel, because what I did was get language related to crash testing integrity into that bill. But the other thing is, in test 35, which is the redirective test, these 2 parts right there and right there were not present. I'm going to move back away from that. And that's the redirective test. That's honestly one of the hardest tests to pass. And those parts weren't there. And that's a key part of the anchorage system. 335 is a 25-degree angle, 5,000-pound pickup truck right here. And it's designed to see if that anchor is going to hold. It's one of the most important tests because if it doesn't hold, you're going down there, folks. And we have a system that was not as tested. We also have the designers and the folks getting the royalties doing the crash testing. I have to head out. Official Elon Musk YouTube channel. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for answering my question. I don't know. I'm guessing you probably have made that up, but if you're real, thank you. So anyways, I like this. I feel like they've done something to deal with a little bit with non-tracking incidents and other similar type crashes with this tethering. I like the idea of tethering. I think this system was basically, they were going into the end zone. This is the one where they're going into the end zone and they fumble at the half-yard line because they celebrated too early is what my concern with the soft stop. I do like that it's got a narrower head, and if I'm going to drive by this guardrail today, I'm going to want to drive by this. If I'm going to hit a guardrail, I like a big boxy head. I like big guardrail heads, and I cannot lie, because of the issue of distributing that impact across a larger area. When I was a nurse in New York, I had an Amish guy that fell out of a tree and he landed on his feet and he ended up with compression fractures, and I learned how to fall. If you spread the impact out over as much surface area as possible. But anyways, that's the Valtier soft stop, originally developed at the University of Texas A&M, sorry. Another concern I do have here is that this system has a thermal expansion issue. In the summer, this thing is almost completely untethered, so don't hit it on a hot day up there because I am afraid it's going to rupture. Another feature here is the Tennessee Department of Transportation. They have it's not filled out. It's not much good to have this kind of thing on your thing if you're not going to fill it out. But this is related to alleged tampering. Well, one of the things that I have found is there have been a number of tampering incidents in Tennessee. I'm hoping somebody gets indicted in the next, possibly real soon. There's some post-cutting, reselling going on here. Guardrail checks in Poland, when? That's a real possibility, the Poland thing. So I have a lot of friends in Kharkiv, Eastern Ukraine. My boys three of them were adopted from Zeleny, which is Green Forest, just outside of Kharkiv. Spent a lot of time in Eastern Europe, going into Eastern European orphanages in Moldova, down near Kabul, and then across the Kharkiv region. But I've had the opportunity recently to go to Poland. I wasn't able to do it. I have a friend that actually, I should share the photo. It was a spearing guardrail crash near Irpen. But I'd love to go in. I'd probably have to fly into Poland and go across it, live. And I don't know. I'd love to go back to Kharkiv, but I really, probably not a reality at this point because of the ongoing war in Ukraine. But don't speak Polish, but speak a little Russian. Sorry. Привет. That's a lot easier than I was trying to say but more than once I've learned a lot of my Russian they call it dirty Russian because I've learned it from orphans, and I've dug myself into a hole a few times. But let's flip this around. Let's walk across the dam. So anyways, we've got a transition here. We've got 6 spacing, and then we drop down to, we're getting these posts closer and closer together. We do have that rub rail that somebody was talking about earlier. Now they're about a foot apart. Polish is easy. Just listen to a Polish cow for 10 hours. Now my brother-in-law said, just give me 12 beers and I can speak any language. I don't know about either one of those pieces of advice, but as you get closer to a concrete transition, you have to get your post spacing closer and closer together, because this is rigid, this is semi-rigid, and without the close post spacing, you're going to rupture, or you're going to push into the rail here, and you're going to hit that head on, and that used to be called the coffin corner. It wasn't until I began monitoring guardrail crashes in not Australia, Brazil, that I saw we save hundreds, if not thousands of lives annually with this right here, this configuration in the United States, because the number of fatal crashes that I see in Brazil where they don't use these transitions very much, it's off the charts. It's off the charts, the number of fatalities that really, but for the fact they're not using this transition, they die because they hit that concrete end, and pretty much it's a blunt end. But let's continue. I'm on the sidewalk here. We have a bike path, totally unprotected bike path. One of the keys to preventing a guardrail crash is drains that are unclogged. Post 10, I mean, he goes out and cleans those drains, but getting the water off the roadside prevents the crash. I have one location, sent it over to Tennessee DOT recently. It's loud up here, and we caught probably 5 crashes at the same location. It's related to drainage. Now they've set up pumps and they're working on it, but the underlying issue is that we've got to get the water off the roadside and prevent the collision before it happens. So down here is the Tennessee River. The water's kind of high and it's muddy. A lot of eagles, osprey nest up here. Beautiful area. Some incredible fishing. Striped bass. They look like a dinosaur. They look like a freshwater shark, but they're a paddlefish. Here's something that's weird. A dead fish up here. And I was always wondering how does a dead fish end up on a guardrail? And Jay, I didn't. Can you hit that message again? I didn't see it. But anyways, how does a fish end up on a guardrail? It's because we have so many birds of prey, and we've got this incredible resource here. And Jay, send it again. Once in a while, one of these eagles or ospreys gets a fish that's too big and they can't handle it, it's flopping, and they drop it. We actually had a crash just down the road from here where the fish got dropped by an eagle or an osprey, and it hit the vehicle, perfectly timed, went into their radiator and just stopped them dead right there on the side of the road on Interstate 40. If you Google, you can find it. There were several news stories it caught and went viral, but that's how a fish ends up on a guardrail, is the bald eagles will drop them. SJimers@yahoo.com. If it's not something that you can share, you can post it right here in the comments if it's not something that would violate confidentiality or there's nothing that you don't mind the whole public seeing. Was that transition to concrete mash tested? I think that may be a 350 transition. I would have to. A lot of the generic products, I don't know if they've been mash tested. I would prefer a Tri-Beam kind of concrete transition. I just think they're better, Dan. But SJEIMERS@yahoo.com. Jay, I'll look at the email if you don't want to post it here. But again, this is a Tennessee River. Water is moving today, and a lot of navigation here. Honestly, though, let's talk a little bit about how we get to Vision Zero. So we have a waterway that's navigable. A lot of barge traffic can go through here. One of the things we can do that can make our roadside a lot safer is when we can use a barge, we pull all of these bigger trucks that would carry that a little bit at a time. We pull a lot of trucks off the roadway and we put them out here in the water. And if we can transport our goods through alternative means, if you measure fatalities in million miles traveled, eventually you reach a point where at a macro level, you're going to save a life. So Anyways, that's just an aside. Let's keep walking. A lot of dirt buildup here. I was able to get TDOT to vacuum this recently, but we eat the fish. I think I'll pass. At this point, that's fish jerky. But proper drainage can be the key. It's often, you know, somebody has a drink and that makes them a little tipsy. That causes, we have a package here that's unopened. Susan Little, you have a package here on the Fort Loudoun Bridge. I might pick that up and track her down a little later. What phone do you have? I have an S23, I think. It's a Galaxy. I'm a creature of habit. I probably should switch to an iPhone, but this has that really cool feature, director's mode, where I can shoot with both front and the back cameras. So I like that. I'll just keep walking up here. I'll tell you about these rails up here, this kind of handrail. I was recently in DC. Google Pixel, great camera. I did have one. Get a loose, I don't know what that is, but I'm just gonna set it there because I'll pick that up another time. I was up in DC on 395 below me, the Rayburn House office building, just a few feet from me. I just hardened assets everywhere, security barriers, and this rail, it's over 395. It's just completely unbolted. So like all you'd really have to do is go thump. And it's like, how in the world can we harden our assets and then just feet away have a guardrail that all somebody would have to do is flip it over onto a congressman or a senator or a foreign dignitary passing underneath? It's like, it's just so backwards. One of the funny things, it's not funny, I was passing by the J. Edgar Hoover building when I was in DC, and there were huge chunks of concrete that were loose and falling off. You could see where some had landed. You could see exposed rebar, and we have just ignored our infrastructure. Yeah, I do believe that there's Trump mentioned that rail. The thing is, I've been able to get Biden and Trump to both speak out about guardrails. And one of the things I know, like even mentioning either one of those names is so toxic with our current politics. But I honestly, I don't care who is talking about it, because my goal is to save the lives. Not so if I get Trump talking about it, if I get Biden talking about Buy America, it doesn't matter. But yeah, I'm certain that the language in that Trump speech was too specific to not be talking about that rail in that video. We've got a bunch of, over in the woods here, thousands, it's interesting, there's thousands of daffodils that are blooming there. One of the things that I have done at Hannah's crash, I don't like putting a non-crash worthy road memorial up. Unless you've lost somebody, you may not understand why you might even want to go back to where your loved one died. But we've planted about 10,000 daffodil bulbs at that interchange, and hopefully that's something that will grow in perpetuity. I'll be long gone, and that'll still be a beautiful location with tens of thousands, but hopefully in a generation or two, hundreds of thousands of daffodils every spring. Got another phone question. Pay $2 million so Playboy cart to mention it for 6 minutes. So I'll tell you what, is this your daughter spot? Christy, hey guys, Christy is, no, that's not Hannah's crush, like Christy. Christy's son was killed in a guardrail crash. The rail was Frankensteined upside down and backwards. Field modifications, probably one of the most egregious installations. I was actually able to, I gave Administrator Shailene bought 2 this side up stickers. Talked quite a bit about Hunter's crash. Hunter's crash was completely avoidable, but it's led to about $250 million worth of guardrail replacements. A third of all the guardrails in Florida, all of the guardrails at Disney World are being replaced. But no, that's just that was just a ton of daffodils up in there, and I was just going to talk about it. But you know, it was, like I said, I was able to talk with the administrator of Federal Highway about Hunter and about his crash and about the dozens of others that have died in crashes where just a this side up sticker might have made the entire difference. And it's just stunning that to even get them to buy into this idea of conspicuous on product labels, it's just silly that we would even have that discussion. If IKEA can do it, pretty sure that the federal government of the United States could do it too. But Hunter is a great kid. I mean, similarities to Hannah in the sense that Hunter and Hannah both did a lot of work with special needs kids. Tim Tebow's Night to Shine program, and just they died with too much music left in them. Shouldn't have happened. Should not have happened. I do want to mention I have a story that's upcoming on NBC National. It will be, I think it's going to be this Sunday on the national news. Just talking about, they tell the stories. I just tell my story and what I'm doing and our story, because you've really given me a platform to do some of this stuff. And so that's going to be a big story, a chance to talk about. Let me check these bolts. Those are all tightened now, so somebody's watching my videos. Thank you, T-Dot. That's going to be on the national news, and hopefully just keep elevating this discussion. That came out of because so many of you have liked and subscribed to my videos. So we have 80-some million views and 212,000 subscribers. I checked the boxes for a press pass, and I was able to get press access to the Transportation Research Board's annual meeting, and was able to tape and put here on YouTube the crash testing where the EVs failed, the Rivian and the Tesla. And everyone knew that had to come out, but everyone's like, it's like when you have to swallow a frog, you just don't want to stare at that sucker too long. But so I just put it on YouTube, and eventually Andy Perotti with WANF, Atlanta News First, broke it a couple hours, 6-8 hours later, maybe the next day. And then it kind of trickled across the nation, and then like CBS, Market Watch. I just saw a story in Australia about it, and all across the world, that our modern barriers can't handle the mass of our EVs. But honestly, it can't handle the mass of that GMC pickup truck either. So a lot of what we have is safety theater, or it's just protecting a very small class of vehicles. But that story, breaking that story, was able to elevate that discussion. Again, I can't control the narrative, but the more I can get people talking about guardrail and guardrail safety, maybe we'll move to a few more solutions. I'm gonna flip this around. This is when I walk this path, this is one of the most dangerous locations for a pedestrian. I actually, when I cross through this crosswalk, I essentially do 360s, because as the vehicles come up through here, this vehicle will not see me. They will run right over top of me. I've almost had it happen dozens of times. They're looking that direction. I'm gonna actually just stand back here because they will not see me. And if I get too close, they'll run me over. Vehicles coming that way will not see me because they'll just turn right. Vehicles coming this way are so focused on turning left and getting across these 2 lanes of traffic that they'll hit me. You got a pocketing hit here, so I got to watch every direction at this location. I cannot tell you how many times I've almost been hit here. And so I just kind of, like I said, I'm constantly looking around. I'll walk backwards because I want them to see me here. There's no way to run a pedestrian location, but I enjoy walking. So earlier I showed you one of these posts that was fractured. This one here is intact, and that is just vital to the redirective capacity of this terminal, or this run of rail. The bearing plate is all askew. You can see they normally try to hold those in with just 16 penny nails. And we need better training for our inspectors, and DOT inspectors are mainly trained on concrete, asphalt, erosion, and sediment control, pavement markings, and structures. Absolutely. It's kind of like that guardrail is where you start and you want to get to pavement, is what I've been told. But even markings, pavement markings can be huge. A 6-inch line can reduce run-off the road collisions by 37% in our rural communities. I don't know how signs and lines work. I don't understand traffic psychology. I don't know why people put bolts in guardrails like that, but anyways, I don't understand traffic psychology, but 6-inch line saves lives versus 4-inch lines, especially in our rural communities. Run for president. I'd get impeached on day one. Or school principal. A lot of times, let's talk about that. Or school principal. I like that. I don't want to run for school principal. But anyways, I'm a guy from rural East Tennessee. I've got 10 kids. I've got goats and chickens, and didn't really have political connections, but I made a pretty good friend in former Congressman John Duncan Jr., a really decent guy. And John always say, get to government closest to the people. You know, the people that you have to interact with. So your state representative, he lives and works in this community. Hopefully he's not a full-time politician. He's also got a regular job or business. So when you can get to the people that actually are closest to the people, that's often where you can make your most effective change. So a lot of times, honestly, that school board position or that local superintendent, road superintendent, or state representative, those guys can help you get a lot done. So your comment about the school principal, don't dismiss it outright. When you work with folks on a local level, you can get a lot done. Now let's take a look at this sign here. It's a breakaway sign that's been to a non-breakaway structure. That post is 41 inches into the ground, so that's no longer breakaway. Bad things can happen. And I just don't like seeing that kind of thing there. We're just walking the entire length of this bike path that I like to walk on because I was getting kind of heavy. Dropped about 40 pounds just walking, shooting these videos, which that's been significant. But so we just have WB guardrail. One thing about the guardrail, I don't like protecting a bike path with guardrail because, again, it's very limited the amount of people that are going to be protected. Also, you see I'm right here. I'm within the deflection zone. If a vehicle that will be redirected hits this, I'm going to get hit anyway. So it's safety. So here we have a spot where they had to omit a guardrail post because there's a drain. There's a drain there. I don't know if you can see it. And so they've had to not use a post, and that's acceptable. There's been crash testing, so we have 6 foot spacing. So what they did here is, I will bring you in here. See, that's a single 12 gauge panel of W-beam guardrail. From W, it's like, it's got 2 humps. It's shaped like a W. Anyways, so up here we're going to go ahead and drop a post. They've doubled up the rail. So there's a guardrail panel nested inside a guardrail panel. So they've doubled it up here. Now we've omitted the post, and they've continued to double it up. So you can see here, there's actually 4 W-beam panels. So they've done the engineering calculations, and to achieve what they wanted to do here, they've doubled the W-beam guardrail, and they feel like that's the proper calculation. There has been some testing that shows you can just omit the posts without the nesting. I appreciate what they did here. Kind of like it a little better. Anyways, let's keep walking. That's one of the realities, though, when you're dealing with guardrail, is that you have to have some flexibility. Hey, Ryan, how's it going this morning? Thanks for joining. Guys, Ryan has gotten tons of guardrails fixed in Florida. Changed policy in Hillsborough County, which that's Tampa. Big influence on the region there. I've done a couple of stories with Channel 10 there at Tampa. Just making an impact in his community. And again, you don't have to report dozens and dozens of guardrails like Ryan, or you can report one a month, and you might, in a year, you've reported almost, at this point, it's at 12 times $6,000 worth of guardrails. It feels good to when your government actually does listen to you for once. Let's see what this message held for review. Well, Toby, thank you for your obscene comment. Let's keep going here. We got 63 people joining us. We'll come up here and we'll talk about this next guardrail. It's a SPIG Esket. The SPIG is a mash tested guardrail. I like it quite a bit. If I was going to hit a guardrail head on, it's one of the ones I would choose to hit head on, without a doubt. Ethically crash tested. Again, here we have a water line. I talked about that dropping the post. Here's a single W-beam panel, 2 panels nested together. We have the water line clearly marked there, the omitted post, and it's nested. Come back, we've got 2 panels. Now they come back and dropped another post. It's a little concerning to me to have 2 just like that, but I'm hoping they did their calculations right. It's, again, you can see 4. Who are you, the Guardrail Patrol? I guess so. Yeah. I guess so. Anyways, I don't know what to tell you, Toby. This is the kid in school who asked the teacher if we are turning in the homework from yesterday. You should really get a day job. That's one of the challenges that I'm like, where can I have the most influence? The Guardrail Guardian. Yeah, thanks, Toby. So we have nested guardrail, and then we get into our Esket, and we have here, and I like this, they have weekend posts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh no, we gotta check this. let's check this. So 12 foot, 25 foot, 37.5 foot MGS rail. All right, we're okay. So they have weakened posts. Become a congressman. Oh goodness. You start writing the checks for a couple $1 million a piece and convince my congressman to reside, and we might be able to talk. They have weakened posts throughout the entire system. I'd like to see a design performance standard written that required all mash tested guardrails to have weakened posts between them. Because what happens is, without weakened posts, if we have strong posts like what you see here, is as the rail is impacted from the beginning, what happens is that when we only have one or two, like in some of the other systems, the posts don't bend over nearly as far, and you can create a Texas turn down style impact. It's my birthday. Can you wish me happy birthday? All right. Oh, okay, Mike. Do you have any other last names too? Keep going, Mike. But anyways, middle school called. They want you back. Let's go back to the ESCAT. We'll talk about a few things. With Mondo blocks in here. So I like this system that it's seldom installed improperly for a number of reasons. But it begins here, it goes through 50 feet. It's got a special rail number 1, generic rail number 2, a generic rail number 3, and then what's called the MGS rail, which allows you to get to your mid-rail splice here at 4. One of the things that I'd like to see is I'd like to see rail 4 and especially rail 1 clearly identified. And the reason for that is that the MSKT system, it has a special rail number 1, but it picks up MGS right here at rail number 2. So that panel that we saw right down here, this 9.5 foot panel that allows you to get to the mid-rail splice, is at post number 2. Both of those systems have been tested with those special splices the way they are. So I'd like to see these poles or these rails clearly identified. Although, like I said, in the thousands of units that I've inspected, I've only found ESCAT installed improperly twice. One was related to somebody just chose to use a different bearing plate, which I don't know how you do that one. The other one was probably the first install, and you see how these bolts, these are standard bolts, so I don't think it would impact the performance, but the bolts here, they're facing inward like they're supposed to, rather than in that situation they were facing outwards. I reported it, and I want to get it corrected, but it's probably not going to affect performance. It uses like a grabber bar. It's proprietary. This system can't work on another system, but it holds the rail in tension. One of the things Don Moning did with this bearing plate, bearing plates are often installed upside down and backwards. And what they did is this has a tube that fits into this wooden post, and it's virtually impossible to install this wrong. So that bearing plate is almost always perfectly oriented, and they've removed a lot of the possibilities of installing this wrong. I'm constantly watching my back. But 310 people have joined us. That's incredible. So right here, this is huge. You see that? You see that right there? That wasn't there initially. I talked with the folks there and I said, listen, would you be willing to add that front sticker at ESCAT? Because when this kind of rail is mixed with the wrong head, it could be deadly. And they added that. And that simple sticker could mean all the difference in the world. Isabella Alonso was killed when the guardrail impact head and the rail number 1 in a different location was improperly installed together. And I gotta see her dad's story. I've been a part of a lot of stories, a lot of stories that have won regional Emmys, Edward R. Murrow Awards. That one won a national Edward R. Murrow Award. Kristen Crawley, the reporter, is an incredible reporter. It's a good story, but it won a national Edward R. Murrow Award when Mark Alonso he gave the interview of a lifetime. And if like you've lost a loved one to in a guardrail crash, you do not need to be an expert on guardrails. Preferably, I'd prefer that you're not. Because when we talk about guardrails, we lose the discussion. But when we talk about Isabella, and you hear Mark in that story, it's the Frankenstein story down at 11 Alive in Atlanta, and he talks about how Isabella had been resuscitated, I think 5 times, and you have a dad who had to make the choice. I don't know how he did it. I didn't get the chance, and in many ways I'm jealous, but I'm glad I didn't. To say stop resuscitation efforts after the 5th attempt. So if you're going to talk to news media as a family member that has lost somebody, don't worry about, well, post number 2 or 3. You don't need to know that stuff. You need to know about Isabella and just share your story, and don't be afraid that I've seen stories where parents are trying not to be emotional. It's like that's when you come across looking bad. It's like when you're talking about your child, it's not natural to not be able to hold it together. So I would encourage folks, find your voice, because it could save another family from living the horror that we face on a daily basis. Play Roblox. Go ahead. Anyways, but that story with Mark was unreal. But that's why that sticker that I was showing you is so important. Imagine losing your child and knowing that a sticker like that could have made all the difference in the world. One of the other things that they did here with the SPIG, I'm going to come around the corner here real briefly. That's a RFID sticker. And I think that's going to be one of the futures of guardrails, using RFID. We got to embrace new technologies if we're going to have proper inventory and monitoring of guardrail performance. But let's talk again about the SPIG Esket. You have the big boxy head. You've got this what I call a flange all the way around it. You have the middle support. So what happens when you impact that sucker? Kind of grabs the vehicle. You have the bearing plate that is virtually impossible to install upside down. You have a wood post number 1 that's weakened, and a ground strut for the anchorage system, and this soil tube that goes down about 6 feet. This post will fracture in an end-on impact. We have our anchor cable that provides redirective capacity there. We have a reinforced plate that goes on the guardrail that's bolted. Cable anchor bracket that is shed when it's impacted. Then we have the weakened posts throughout. Again, you have the first proprietary rail number 1 that is special and unique to this system. Weakened post at number 3, which I love this because it prevents that ramping effect. Weakened post at 4, 5. It has a standard rail number 2. Weakened post here. Weakened post here. Again, it prevents that ramping effect. Another weakened post. Now we pick up our mid-rail splice. It's the end of our system, and then a standard line post at number 9. would pick up regular rail. I can tell you, I've seen crashes. Not a big fan of that right there. Not a big fan of that right there at all. It's not ideal. But I've seen crashes where this system can absorb. What I like about this system, what I like about the MSKT system, and say the soft stop too, is what I would call, this is, you feed this in here, it comes out right here flat. Similar concept with the MSKT, similar concept with the soft stop, is in theory, hit with a sustained force, this impact head is going to travel until you run out of rail. I like a system that has excess capacity built into it, and the reason it's personal, deeply personal to me, because you'll see in the NBC story that I'm going to be doing, is that they're going to say the guardrail in Hannah's crash performed exactly as designed, meaning all three rails telescoped. Well, the thing was, there was no excess capacity, and the rail speared into the vehicle, and I don't know why they ever thought this was if exactly as designed is spearing into the passenger compartment of your vehicle? Are you serious? That just doesn't seem like a really strong strategy, but I'm not going to argue. I mean, Hannah's case came to a satisfactory conclusion. All right, Toby, I let water, it runs right off my back. I don't like it. And I don't want to rehash the past, but every time I do a news story, got a DC-based publicist that will be sending out emails saying, hey, it functioned exactly as designed. It's like, that's your strategy, that's fine. I mean, but exactly as designed, when you're eviscerating people, I wouldn't be telling people that's exactly as designed. But anyways, so I like the excess capacity of that terminal right there, because in theory, like I said, it can go on forever. Same with the soft stop. It's garbage in, garbage out, and we have safety. So it feeds indefinitely. Same with, I've seen a crash with the SKT 350 box truck. Dr. Sicking, who invented the safer barrier when Dale Earnhardt was crashed. What's your favorite color guardrail? I'll answer that, because I do have one that's not my favorite. But at Hannah's trial, he talked about a 300-foot impact involving the SKT. The pictures were unreal. It was just ribbons everywhere. It was a box truck that hit it at a sustained speed and just kept extruding. It's over 3 million kip feet. So, what's my favorite color guardrail? I like galvanized guardrail, period. So, any shade of gray like that, 50 shades of gray guardrail, I like. I do not like weathered steel. Weathered steel guardrail has no place on America's roadways. That's a rusty guardrail. That's by design. It's so that we can think, oh, well, our guardrail looks pretty. Well, guardrail is not pretty. Come on. It's just always going to look ugly, and you can put rusty guardrail. The problem is that in a few years, you've compromised the integrity and redirective capacity of your guardrail, and now eventually it's going to rupture, and it's not going to protect people. It's going to rust out. So I like 50 shades of gray guardrail. I'll tolerate painted guardrail. I don't like it very much, because any guardrail on the side of the road, the salt and the harshness that it faces, it breaks down. So really, I do have a favorite color guardrail. I do have an interview I'm going to do with the American Galvanizers Association that does talk about why, you might see literally 50 shades of gray or 150 different shades of gray involving guardrail. It has to do with the base material and also the amount of some of the metallurgy, and I'm not a metallurgist, so I'm going to talk to those folks. Great job. Can I work with you? Just find Ahmad. start finding guardrails that are damaged and reporting them to the owners, preferably the state DOTs, because they typically are most responsive. So just open your eyes. I'd like to get to a point where I am doing more research that's going to be able to be peer reviewed, but also developing programs where we should put stickers on random guardrails and try getting people to find them. It's a good idea. I may try that. I don't want to put people in harm's way, though. It's been one of my great fears. I've had folks that are working on guardrails that I've reported. Again, not my fault, but like they parked their truck too close to the zone and people were injured. Again, I mean, they just were repairing guardrails, and so it scares me to ever promote something where somebody is potentially getting in harm's way. But I could definitely do something like on a guardrail like this where you're safe and protected, or at least marginally safe and protected. Steve, any intention to get involved with temporary protective systems? A little bit. I'll tell you, I was shooting this story with NBC, and I let Tennessee DOT, there were some temporary applications of crash cushions, and when they're crashed, when you have your crash cushions, I've been waiting 8 minutes for this battle to start in War Thunder. What should I do? I'm guessing that's a game. You're gonna have to reach out to Grayson, my son, or Nikki, and get your advice on gaming, because I'm more in the where's the any key territory. But so temporary work zone protection systems, super difficult to inspect because you're getting yourself into harm's way. I checked some recently where they were not even bolted down. You're supposed to torque them in a temporary work zone application because you're not using a concrete pad to 10 pounds of torque, and you have to tighten them all. Well, none of them were bolted down. I was getting ready. I had reported it. I spoke with the foreman of the job, and he said he had fixed them, but I was going to shoot with NBC. I'm like, listen, get out there, make sure these are bolted down, because I'm not here to make you look bad. I want to make sure that if these are hit, they're actually going to work. Here we have a sign, a breakaway sign on a post, fixed I-beam post that's no longer breakaway. We've kind of counteracted everything that we were trying to do with the breakaway sign structure. So not a good application for our sign, not MUTCD compliant, scenic route. Now, here's an interesting thing. This is 321 north, but you're headed south. That's 321 south, but you're headed north. I've never understood this at all, but I don't get to name the roads. Hey Steve, is there a practical solution to merge two separated W beams in which distance is not allowed to bolt a full sheet of guardrail? I'm not quite sure what you're asking. What I would say is you have to treat it some way. Double-sided, if you're treating the end, a crash cushion with a transition to the W-beam. So like if you can't get a mat or I'm not a big fan of any 350 device like the Cat 350 because the more rigorous crash testing standards, but I would probably, I'm not an engineer or design guy, but I've seen a lot of success with the smart cushion. You have to pour the concrete pad, but you have a much when you don't have much to work with as far as real estate, you have a device that will stop a vehicle very safely. Smart cushion, the amount of crashes that we're catching on camera, I was largely indifferent to the crash cushions. Not because I didn't care, but I didn't have any kind of knowledge. But watching these videos, the smart cushion from Hill and Smith performs very, very well. Again, I don't have any financial interest other than I want to see people survive crashes. And I think that I would be looking at a crash cushion in this application if I'm understanding you right. Marco, thanks for joining me and thanks for the question. Again, we have MGS Rail. I've almost reached the end of my walk. You should play GTA 4. Check out the guardrails. There's actually a number of younger guys that have made guardrails based on some of my videos in these Roblox games. I don't know what Roblox is, Army guy, but I know what it is because my kids play it, but it's really cool to see people's creativity at play with the Roblox and stuff. So here, let's talk about this guardrail. So you can see here that should be back down in the thing, but check out that. That is spray paint. That is spray paint. And so this is a very robust impact head, very robust, and it can be reused if it's allowed. The thing you can't do with it is take a used guardrail and then resell it to the state as new. That's you're getting into having made potentially a materially false claim against the United States. And so I've had some YouTube viewers, and you can see that is clearly spray painted. Reach out to me and say, hey, listen, the company I work for is spray painting guardrail and reselling it to Tennessee and others as new. I mean, it's just out. Well, the thing is, I found overwhelming evidence that what these guys were telling me was true. Because, like, when you can see the markings, or if they tell you, hey, listen, go to this location, and I drove 40 miles, go up in the woods, 20 feet. Now turn right and walk 60 feet backwards, and you're going to find a cut soil tube. I knew I was either going to find a cut soil tube or I was going to find like the Silence the Lamb guy and end up as a skin suit in some well somewhere. But when they tell you, hey, listen, if you know where in the haystack to look for the needle, and you go and you find it again and again and again, it's a good chance what they're telling you is true. So this is one of the locations that I believe is a guardrail that has been previously installed and then spray painted to cover up the fact that there was maybe some paint on here, some purple paint, and you can see the overspray there. It appears this could be one of the previously impacted systems. You can see the spray paint there, and so really, really serious potential fraud involving some of the guardrails here in Tennessee. But this is not just Tennessee. I am aware of similar type installations in other states. The thing is, if you can reuse the guardrail, by all means reuse it if it's allowed by law and your engineering judgment. But if you're selling used guardrails as new, you're in dangerous territory. It's like turn around, don't drown kind of time, because you are in serious territory of, I mean, you're in fraud territory, going to prison territory when you start reselling used guardrails as new. And so I hope, that this is just, that's spray paint, folks. I don't know what else to tell you. That's spray paint. That's not typically what you'd see here. But let's talk about this mismatch of all kinds of nonsense. We have a lot of litter and debris. We've got this huge chunk of concrete shaped like a heart for Valentine's Day. We have a curb right in front of our impact head, and then we have this breakaway light post right there. So we've mixed all of these safety features all of them have been crash tested independent of each other. Well, not the litter and not the big chunk of concrete. That's an issue where we just have to have our eyes open. I just, you know, if nothing else, let's get that over here. I may come out here with a sledgehammer and break that piece of concrete. I don't make any modifications to guardrails ever. But like when I have a piece of concrete that's right there and it's not a curb, it's not anything, it's just debris that's left, I will move that. But I'd never alter anyone's guardrail because it's illegal. But anyway, so let's talk about this here. This curb right here is going to induce a lot of instability right before you hit this impact head. And it's just going to be very unpredictable outcomes. Generally lower speeds, you're coming off that right-hand turn, so it's been hit. I've seen it hit. Like seconds after I got hit, I was right next to it. But you have this structure here, this breakaway light. When you start mixing all these things together, you just don't know how they're going to work together. And so we've got to, when we're in the design phase, take a look at these things and see what we can do to try not to end up with so many different crash tested elements in one location, because we know that all of these are okay individually. It's when we start mixing them together, and I've seen locations with 5, 6, 7, 8 different elements in the same location, and yeah, they're all crash worthy, but not together. Let's finish the walk here. I'm going to go ahead and probably, I'll turn around and talk to you again in a minute. Again, we have a curb. I want to talk about the landscaping here. We had some trees that were planted in here that our clear zone should be sacred, in the sense that we don't put large trees. I'm glad all those trees died in the middle of the median there, because that was dangerous. I had nothing to do with it. They made no plans. They planted in the middle of a drought. But don't plant trees in your clear zone. That's just dumb. It's a hazard. I prefer something that doesn't need to be watered, something that's right for your growth zones. So, I mean, don't go planting. I remember at Fort Stewart, my uncle was chief of staff for 3rd ID there, and they planted trees along for the heroes that had died in Iraq, but they planted trees that wouldn't grow in that environment. You should start a militia and replace faulty guardrails. Well, the right to bear and keep armed guardrails. But anyways, you got to plant for your clear zones. Crash-worthy, stuff that's not going to grow up and present a hazard, but also stuff that we're not wasting our resources on plants that are not hardy or also dangerous to be hit. So here's something interesting. You see that? Yes, trees were one of the highest causes of fatalities when they first started examining roadside. That's another thing. We cannot be lazy and put up a guardrail just because we don't want to take down some trees. If I could honestly do one thing, no, we're not going to destroy all trees, Army guy. I would give every state DOT worker a chainsaw and say, hey, listen, let's remove trees within the clear zone. Well, you can plant trees elsewhere. Let's do it. But let's remove trees within the clear zone. You see that funny little piece up there on the we have our red light, our traffic light post here. That piece there, I've learned so much through YouTube commenters. That metal piece right there, it acts as a baffle, and it prevents like that from getting a little out of control. And that piece up there, as you're going through these zones, look for the metal bar with the flat metal piece on top, and that's kind of a baffle, from what I've been told, for these structures here. Now, these are not breakaway, and they can represent a hazard. But anyways, it's interesting, all the science that goes into the roadside and the roadside safety. So here's a location. We have a slip lane here and an island, and then I won't even try to cross this. I have been hit, or not hit, but almost hit so many times at this crosswalk, that because nobody expects you to be here. So, and we're obstructed from view. So we've added this Lenore City, established 1907, but they can't see me. And I have got to get right up here and be watching them come this way, but they don't expect me to be here. So it's super, super dangerous as a pedestrian. I'm going to step back because I don't want to get splatted on camera. I'm okay with if something happens to me when I'm out on the roadside. I don't want it to happen, but I accept that's the reality of what may happen. It's dangerous to be out here on the road. But our pedestrian safety in America has gotten to be a complete and total joke. We are losing so many people unnecessarily on the roadside as pedestrians. Some of it has to do with being on a smartphone and not paying attention, both for the pedestrian and the folks in the vehicles. Intoxication is a big problem, both for the drivers and the pedestrians. But a lot of it is our design issue. I mean, to try to get across, this is almost like I couldn't throw a baseball that far, partly because I have a bad rotator cuff, but also that's a long distance, and I'm supposed to try to work my way across. Let's see, one lane, 4 more lanes, and then 2 other lanes, and then a turn lane too. So what, 8 lanes? And they're not watching for me. And so, Army, really, you should get the Anarchist Cookbook and start stockpiling MREs. You're really wanting to turn me into a I don't know. Texting and driving is a disease. That's honestly, I was asked recently by another YouTuber who has a big channel, what up? Like, what do I think about drunk driving? And like the biggest problem. So like Guardrail is big, and but it's not. If I was going to I had a plan to reduce roadside safety, or not reduce roadside safety. We're doing that already. I don't need to help with that. But if I was going to reduce traffic deaths in America, removing objects from the clear zone, like trees, would be big. Super unpopular, but dead pedals in cars, in the sense that a lot of times, kinetic energy, you do not know how to, you can't say, well, I know how to drive at 100 miles an hour. No, you don't. It's just kinetic energy. It does not care about you and how you know how to drive. I drove ambulance, and I had the same attitude. I know how to drive fast. No, you don't. You can't. It takes a certain amount of distance to stop. So, yeah, you don't know how to drive fast. So a dead pedal, so that would limit your speed. That's going to, from a libertarian's perspective, be extraordinarily unpopular. It's also, I don't know that even red or blue, you're going to find many people who like that idea. Texting and driving is huge. I think we can look and see the correlation between about 2010, when traffic deaths started going up, and then also the DUI, DWI. One of the things, I'm not a fan of DUI enforcement, and I know this is going to be controversial, but for DWI, which is driving while intoxicated versus driving under the influence, I worked as a nurse. I worked in the, I remember coming in one night, we had a child on our floor. Both parents had been killed. and the drunk driver had been killed. Triple fatal crash. Ooh, watch this. The bike, that's kind of scary. That truck was coming in. That was scary looking. Sorry, you didn't see it. I was talking to you, but when we switched from DWI enforcement to DUI enforcement, we switched to almost a policing for profit motive versus going out and looking for these dangerous drivers that were not under the influence, but while intoxicated. And that slight subtlety, we began pulling drivers off the roadside that I don't want on there, but we switched our focus from looking for those deadly drivers and stopping them. We actually saw a spike in fatalities. So I'd like to see more of a DWI enforcement, going after folks that are driving while intoxicated, where you see the weaving. And if we have the opportunity to get anybody under the influence of alcohol off the roadside or other drugs off the roadside, I don't have a problem with that, but I think how we enforce it, we can do a better job. The other thing that I think that we need is within the IIJA was a passive alcohol monitoring system. I think we're implementing that law wrong, using very expensive technology, hoping to catch everybody, where implementing it with the cheaper technology and preventing, yes, somebody could just blow in this and a sober driver could and allow you to drive anyways, but by implementing something like a breathalyzer, we could save an awful lot of lives. So the enemy of good can be perfection. So I'm willing to take a solution that gets us closer to 0 deaths versus a solution that is perfect any day. So like I saw this, going back to barrier, I would prefer a concrete barrier every day of the week over a cable barrier. But the cost of implementing concrete and the time, it means getting a cable barrier out there. And we've seen this play out up in Canada between Toronto and coming down towards Detroit. The cost to implement, the time to implement the concrete barrier was just going to take a lot longer, and the lives we were able to save by getting the less effective cable barrier out there would take decades and decades to make it up. Now, I'd like to see that, but again, don't let perfection be the enemy of good. A few, that's why your mom left you when you were 2. Got to work on your grammar, but good try. I love YouTube. The comments section. Are there more girls or boys where you work? Well, I work out of my home, and I've got 3 daughters and a wife at home and 2 boys. We'd have to count up the hedgehogs, chickens, and the goats, and I still think the girls are going to outnumber the boys. So, hello there. Let's flip this around. Oops, sorry. Ike, thanks. I respect what you do. I appreciate that. It means a lot. I'm just sitting here on this bench. I think I'm going to run up there to Sonic. I'm going to end this here in a second. We'll get Route 44 Strawberry Limeade. And then walk home. But just wanted to try something a little bit different. Headed back to work. Have a good day. Thanks, Ike. If you like the YouTube comment section, wait until you find Reddit. Oh my, yes, Reddit is awful. Few more streams. I think I'm going to try that because it can talk a little bit more and a little more education than a 60-second short. It's probably where I'm going to stick to. I want to do some podcasts. I really want, 1,000 people a year die hitting guardrails. And I want to tell their stories because this is way more than just me and my daughter. I want you to hear like 5-minute, 10-minute stories from loved ones that have lost children, spouses, friends, because it's really much, much bigger than Steve. It's much, much bigger than my daughter Hannah. It's hundreds and hundreds of people. Just since Hannah was killed on November 1st of 2016 by a Avenger cannon. I'll see what I can do about getting that cannon. Does it require, anyway, sorry. I want to tell the stories of other folks. So if you have lost a loved one, reach out to me. I'd love to get a picture. I got to get a post office box because I have a wall where I do a lot of my more legacy media stories. And there's a picture of Hannah there, but it's a lot of white wall there. And I'd love to have photos and names on the back and dates and just what you can share. And so when I'm doing a news story, it's not just Hannah in that photo, but representation of victims from across the United States. So that's something I'm going to get set up here soon. But really appreciate you joining me this morning. And I wanted to try something different. Make sure to tune into that NBC story. It will be on the nightly news Sunday night. And dude, that's such a great idea. Have loved ones who have lost someone by hitting a guardrail tell us about their son or husband or wife. Give them a voice. It's definitely something I'm going to do. But tune into that story at NBC. Really great to see that. Check the guardrails in Suwannee County, Florida. I'll see what I can do. Ryan might be able to do that too. I don't know where. Florida's a big state. But NBC National Sunday night. I don't know what the full story is going to be, but more of a macro look at guardrails. Great to see the national news covering this and just keep growing the influence just that we have. I really like my guardrail guy hat. I had my guardian angel thing on here too, but just incredible to be given that platform. Appreciate y'all joining me today. You never know when you're going to go live if one person will show up. Looks like several thousand people have hopped in and out throughout the live, and really appreciate you joining me. Appreciate you liking and subscribing to the channel because it's really opened a lot of doors. Well, it'll end when it ends. I can't see. All right, well, if you're still with me, enjoy. I can't see my phone because it's down to like 2 or 3%. Just trying to shut it off, but I'm gonna order Route 44 strawberry